Alright, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all the highest praise, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushai, Bahashim, Rakak, Kadash. Double honors to the apostles, double honors to the elders of Great Millstone, who teach it real well, teaching this truth according to the Bible. And today, we're going to go into a very specific topic, all right, dealing with the beasts, okay, specifically the fourth beast in the book of Daniel, chapter 7, okay, and then there's a few chapters that we'll go into, all right, because this fourth beast is, okay, if you read the book of Daniel, it's giving you a timeline on all the kingdoms that were going to rule the world, all right, before the return of Yahushai. And we believe through faith that we are in the last kingdom, aka Babylon the Great. You go into the book of Revelation, chapter 17 and 18, all right, and we believe that Babylon the Great is the reincarnated state of Rome, okay, the Roman Empire back on the earth, all right. So, like I said, we'll start here. Go ahead.
Yeah, because I was just meditating, so I was actually reading a bit before the brother came, and I want to get this first, before he stopped at the actual lesson. 2nd Esdras chapter 7 and verse. I'm going to start at verse 2. And he said unto me, Up, Esdras, and hear the words that I am to tell thee. And I said, Speak on, my God. Then said he unto me, The sea is set in a wide place, that it might be deep and great. And that sea is what we're in right now. It's deep and great troubles and all this stuff. Because I actually had a dream today, earlier today, just about what's going to come to pass. A lot of things that are happening right now. But put the case, the entrance were narrow and like a river. Who then could go into the sea to look upon it and to rule it? If he went not through the narrow, how could he come into the broad? There is also another thing. The city is built and set upon a broad field, and is full of good things. This is talking about the kingdom. It's obviously here. It's not full of good things, full of evil things. Verse 7. The entrance thereof is narrow, and it sets in a dangerous place to fall. It's talking about America. America's about to be set to fall. You know, if you lose the spirit, man, you're set to fall here easily here in Babylon. A lot of witchcraft out here. Like as if there were a fire on the right hand and on the left a deep water, and one only path between them both, even between the fire and the water, so small that there could but one man go there at once. One man going there at once. So the brother has his own journey. He's heading there, and then I got my own journey. Each brother has their own journey they're going through at once. If this city now were given unto a man for an inheritance, if he never shall pass the danger set before it, how shall he receive this inheritance? And I said, It is so, Lord. Then said he unto me, Even so also is Israel's portion, because for their sakes I made the world. And when Adam transgressed my statutes, then was decreed that now is done. Let's see what that's talking about here in the next verse. Then were the entrances of this world made narrow, full of sorrow and travail, but they are but few and evil, full of perils and very painful. And that's where you get on the latter verse here in then 42. So that was self-explanatory here. This is in 42 though. He answered me and said, This present life is not the end where much glory doth abide. Therefore have they prayed for the weak. So that's the point right there, man. The weak, the 2/3, they're not gonna be able to go and run to a brother to try to make it through him, or especially if you're not going through hell, you gotta go. And this walk, expect a lot of hell.
Right. The scriptures talk about enduring chastening, okay, and that chastening is actually a good thing if you're dealing with it, before the trouble comes. Because before the trouble comes, when you're going through hell, all right, you can account that toward the Lord dealing with you as a son, right? But when the trouble comes, when Jacob's trouble actually starts, and the rest of the 2/3 and the other nations got to go through hell, that's not chastening, that's vengeance, that's judgment, okay? And it's only going to lead to their ultimate destruction. Well, the chastening that we endure now in this truth, while we have the time, while we have the mercy and grace, okay, that is accounted as chastening and being dealt with like a son of the Most High, okay? There's a difference, right? And the vengeance and the judgment that is about to be poured upon Babylon the Great, okay? And we believe that we are here in this kingdom at the very end right now as we speak. World tensions are heating up. Iran and Israel are shooting missiles at each other all over the place. Russia's getting pissed off at Ukraine even more. They're talking about bombing Kiev, which is the capital. Okay, China is getting ready to invade Taiwan. Okay, these are the signs that Yahushua was talking about in Matthew the 24th chapter. Okay, so now we got to be diligent, okay, and apply these prophecies to what we're seeing, go on in the world. Okay.
I got a bit more actually.
Go ahead.
2 Ezra 7 and 13. For the entrances of the elder world were wide and sure and brought immortal fruit. If then they that live labor not to answer these great and vain things, that's the things that we're going through in this present evil world, they can never receive those that are laid up for them. So if we don't go through these things now, it's very uncomfortable and very, what's another word? Very painful, you can say.
Mm-hmm.
We ain't gonna make it to the kingdom.
That's right. That's why the scriptures say, "He that endureth to the end," right? The same shall be saved. You endure what's going on now, okay? Be patient with the Lord and then trust the process, then He's gonna have mercy on you. Go ahead.
Verse 42, but the day of doom shall be the end of this time, and the beginning of the immortality for to come, wherein corruption is past. That day of doom, brother just explained it. You see her dreams about it. You probably had dreams about it. The intemperance is at an end. Infidelity is cut off. So 2/3, all that wickedness, right, is going to be cut off. Righteousness is grown. The truth is sprung up. That's what we're trying to seek right now. That's what we're trying to get rich, and we ain't trying to get rich here. We're trying to get rich in the spiritual sense right now.
That's right.
Because that's the only path to the true riches. You can try to get rich here, but it's gonna crumble to pieces.
Right, and that takes away from the work and the truth. Okay, money is a distraction down here. Okay, and it's really ultimately not even real money. Elder Pastor Ramlan did a lesson on that. If I could just add on with this, Psalms 23, which is one of my favorite psalms. Okay, but I'll just read verse 4 where it says, "Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over." Okay, so this is a psalm of David. Okay, and right now we can apply this to the valley of shadow of death, which is America. Okay, we're walking through it right now. But the brothers that truly have faith, we're not going to fear the evil that's coming upon this world right now. As a matter of fact, we cheer it on. We pray for it. We look forward to the day when the lights go out. We look forward to the day when we hear our enemies being destroyed by the Heavenly Father in all various manners of ways, right? But in order to do that, we got to be patient, like we were saying before. Okay, we got to endure to the end. This is Revelation 3 and 10. It says, "Because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I will also keep thee from the hour of temptation, which is upon us right now." which shall come upon all the world to try them that dwell upon the earth. Okay? So part of what we're doing right now, which is the work, which is serving Yahweh Shem Shai and bringing out the truth of these prophecies, okay, that's also going to be accounted for our works, man. That Yahweh Shai will hopefully, look down upon what we've done, our body of work, and say those two, those brothers right there, they did what they needed to do for me. And I'm going to keep them from the hour of temptation. I'm not going to allow the demons that are sent for destruction and the death angels that I'm going to send on everybody else. I'm not going to allow them to touch those brothers or their families, So,
I got a
go ahead.
Quick testimony, like in that dream that I just had today, just before I met your brother. It was like the first part of the dream was very dark. It was in the streets here, the city me and the brother dwell in here, and in the streets, it was all looking dark and red. And in the dream, the spirit just told me, man, when you see the streets look like this, the spirit told me this time is gonna come where a lot of people are either gonna be dead or they're gonna be hiding because of all the darkness and gloom that's gonna be out here. But we can, we can start on we're gonna start on the breakdown now.
Cool. So the main 3 chapters we'll hit. Okay, the main chapter is really Daniel chapter 7, but you can add on to it with Daniel chapter 2 and also Revelation chapter 17 and Revelation 13, of course. But did you want to start off in Daniel 7?
I actually was planning on going through. Yeah, I should have told you this before the video.
Yeah, that was fine.
I was planning on going through Daniel 12 first.
Yep. You can do that. Actually, I was just looking at that too.
Verse 1 all the way down to the last verse.
Yeah, I was looking at that too. We can go there.
I got this one to start with.
Go ahead.
This is Numbers 31, 20. I'm going to start at 21. And all the way back in the Torah here, the Lord's telling you right here, is referencing to that statue here. And Elijah the priest said unto the man of war which went to the battle, this is the ordinance of the law which the Lord commanded Moses. So they was about to go to the battle. This is what the Lord told Moses here in verse 22. Only the gold and the silver, the brass, the iron, the tin, and the lead, everything that may abide the fire, ye shall make it go through the fire, and it shall be clean. Nevertheless, it shall be purified with the water of separation. And all that abideth not the fire, you shall make go through the water. So it also, it's like a metaphor for the fire being the hell, and the water being the balance, the life, the living waters. But notice it says, all that abideth not the fire, you shall make go through the waters. And they're like 2/3, they're going to go through the fire, but they're not going to get the water. And the stat and mentions, so that's the gold, the silver, the brass, the iron, those things can withstand fire and water. So and these kingdoms are likened to gold, silver, brass, precious metals, or useful metals. All basically you can call them like booty, basically, like things that you keep that after a war. Gold, silver, brass, like what these kings, we're gonna own these kings.
Kind. Gold and silver have always been real money, and the Bible talks about gold and silver at length. Okay, being real valuable, right? Even when I remember the account in the book of Joshua, I forget which chapter, but it was the story of Achan, when the Lord said, "Go in and take the land, but don't touch the accursed thing." But he found a bunch of what was it, silver, I believe, or it was silver and gold, and he decided to try to keep it and sneak it for himself, right? Why? Because when he saw those precious metals, okay, which are listed in that statue, he coveted them, okay, and he tried to pull one over.
And that can be a metaphor for the 2/3 that want to stay in Babylon.
Con.
they want to keep their idols.
Right.
I got this one too. Deuteronomy 4:20. But the Lord hath taken you and brought you forth out of the iron furnace. And we know America's that iron statue.
That's right.
Even out of Egypt. And that's another scripture proving Egypt is America today.
Mm-hmm.
To be unto him a people of inheritance as ye are this day.
Okay.
And I got another one in Joshua. You got something to add?
Yeah, I was gonna add that Egypt, okay, which is talking about America today. Yes, the Lord came and there was the book of Exodus is about the children of Israel leaving the actual Egypt, but America is also another Egypt, okay? Let me get this. Go ahead.
Joshua 6:24, and they burnt the city with fire and all that was therein. Only the silver and the gold and the vessels of brass and of iron. Once again, really the statue we're about to get into. Nebuchadnezzar had a vision. He's like I believe I just had, and like brothers, some of you elect might have already had or heard. Others had. Only the silver and the gold and the vessels of brass and of iron they put into the treasury of the house of the Lord. So I took this as a metaphor as well for how the Lord's going to put all these kingdoms under his subjection, and they're by default under our subjection. If we get to make it.
That's right.
The first fruits. You know, all the elect is gonna, all the Israelites is gonna come back, but why? We ain't trying to make it on the second.
Right. We want to go on the first go round. You know, that comes with a certain position and honor that you get in the kingdom. Okay, you get certain privileges, and the scriptures talk about how there's going to be a difference between the elect Israelites and then just the regular Israelites that come back. Okay, the elect Israelites are going to be in positions of authority, okay, over the kingdom. Really, which is really, yes, it's the earth, it's Jerusalem, but then that extends also out into the cosmos. That's the universe, really. Okay, we're going to be the gods of the earth, but also the gods of the universe. Wherever we go, we will be gods, we will be kings and priests. All right, and we will take authority and ownership, Lord willing. We're part of that number, you know. But did you want to start in Daniel chapter 12?
Before we get that, just want to get on this right here.
Yep.
It says, so the gold is, it's going to mention the gold, that's going to be the Babylonian Empire from 625 BC to 539 BC. The next one's going to be the silver, that's the Medo-Persian Empire from 539 to 331 BC. The next one that followed on that is the Greeks, the bronze from 331 to, they say, 63 BC, which is actually a bit before that, but the Greeks fell. Around the time of you get the Maccabees, that's really when they came back. The Greeks fell down. So from the Roman Empire, that was the next one, the iron, that can go, you can say, really it should say 100 something BC, but it says 63 BC to 476 AD. And that one is kind of speculative. I mean, I've heard Tahar say it could have ended with the 5 good emperors after Titus. You can say it started with 1,000 years started with Constantine.
Yeah.
Or 470, like it says here, 476 AD.
Yeah. Because when I was doing my research, I came across the same thing. They said about 475 AD, which, yeah, but you know, when I was going into the 10 barbarian tribes, it says that they, over time, they all played a role in the downfall of Rome militarily. So the fall of Rome was a process, really. You know, it was really a process where they were no longer relevant, and they had a lot of economic, like what's going on today with the devaluing and the basing of the currency, which the currency back in Rome was what? It was the with the denarius, I I believe it was called the denarius, and it used to be an actual silver coin. And as time went on through the Roman Empire, they did the same thing that they do to the currency today, which is the United States dollar, which is devalue it. Okay, and how they did that back then was they would mix alloys in the metal. Okay, they would use cheaper and cheaper metal, okay, instead of silver. So kind of like we used to have coinage in the United States that was pure silver coinage, gold and silver coin, but now it's what? It's tungsten, it's copper, it's zinc, it's different metals that are not as valuable. Okay, so that same process of economic downturn was going on in the Roman Empire at the time that they fell, along with all the military scourges or the military wars they were having with the barbarian tribes, which I have those notes too. But what else you got right there?
Yeah, the Western Empire suffered several Gothic invasions. In 455 AD, it was sacked by the Vandals. Rome continued to decline after that until 476 AD, when the Western Roman Empire came to an end. And then you get the fall of Constantinople, which was around, actually, if you can look that up.
Yep, I got it right here. So Constantine was actually a native of the British Isles, okay, and he actually established the city of Constantinople, which was in the year let's see, when was Constantine? Constantine, or Constantinople. Constantine specifically referring to the refounding of the Byzantium in Constantinople was established in 330 AD. It says, this is the Eastern Roman Empire right before the Roman Empire, Western Roman Empire fell. Emperor Constantine dedicated the newly built city on May 11th. Yeah, because it was a brand new. Right today, I believe that city is called Istanbul. No, not Istanbul. What's that? It's that Eastern Turkish city. It's Istanbul, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it
Istanbul.
is
Yeah, Istanbul. It says Emperor Constantine dedicated the newly built city on May 11th, 330, as the new capital of the Roman Empire. The city was previously known as Byzantium. Okay, so let's see. Constantine, it says, yeah, so Constantine, the Roman emperor, was widely known for establishing Constantinople and promoting Christianity, which is where you had the Council of Nicaea, which was basically the main point of the Council of Nicaea was was to disprove Arianism. Okay, when I was in my research, I learned that technically Christians would consider us to be Arianists. Arianism is the belief that Yahushai, who they call Jesus Christ, and the Heavenly Father are separate persons, separate beings. Okay, and the Council of Nicaea discredited that. They did not agree with that. They really established that Trinity doctrine. Okay, so Arianism is what they met for a lot of things, but it was really the main point was Arianism. Okay.
What are you looking up?
The year that so the year of the first Council of Nicaea started in May of 325 AD. Okay, so that's about 130 years before the fall of the Western Roman Empire. Okay, so that was the first Council of Nicaea, which was under Constantinople. Okay, or Constantine himself. Okay.
So I basically would put it around, like, yeah, it started with the 5 good emperors, but I would really say it technically started with Constantine first.
Yeah. So it was about a period of about 130, 120 years where they were just in constant decline, and Constantine was in rising in power. So
You can get, you want to add something?
I was gonna go to Daniel 2 and 30.
I wanted to start with. I just wanted to go basically off this list.
Yeah, we can go with that. Since you got it right there.
Daniel 1.
Daniel 1.
3 to 7.
Okay, I got it right here. We'll start here at Daniel 1 and 3 to 7, and the headlining is "Well-favored men are chosen." And it says, "And a king spake unto Ashpenaz, the master of his eunuchs, that he should bring certain of the children of Israel, and of the king's seed, and of the princes." Okay, because remember, in Babylon, the Israelites were captives, and oftentimes when one empire captures or conquers another, they would take their noble families, like their princes, their nobles, or their high-ranking families, and they would make them direct servants in the house of the new emperors. Okay, and this is what Daniel was doing, actually. Same with Azariah, Mishael, and Ananiah. Okay, he says, "The children in whom was no blemish, but well favored and skillful in wisdom, in all wisdom, and cunning in knowledge and understanding, science, and such as had ability in them to stand in the king's palace." See, because they were already nobles. Okay, so they kind of knew how to conduct themselves around nobles, not to mention the fact that these were considered wise men. Okay, each nation has what they would consider to be wise men. Some have soothsayers, magicians, scientists, technocrats. Okay, that's what the Chaldeans were of their time. The Chaldeans were the technocrats of their era. Okay, and it says, "And whom they might teach the learning and the tongue of the Chaldeans." You went through 7, right? And it says, "And the king appointed them a daily provision of the king's meat, and of the wine which he drank, so nourishing them 3 years, that at the end thereof they might stand before the king." And what does the scripture say about sitting at the king's table? Okay, I believe, is that in the book of Sirach, where it says, "Eat not of the king's meat, while you sit at his table." Okay, so the Babylonian king wanted Daniel and the wise men of Israel to eat the food that he was eating, which would have been very good food. It would have been dainty, fat, fried, unhealthy foods, to say. Okay, and it says, "Now among these were the children of Judah, Daniel, Ananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, unto whom the prince of the eunuchs gave names, for he gave unto Daniel the name of Belteshazzar, and to Hananiah of Shadrach, and to Mishael of Meshach, and to Azariah of Abednego."
Is that all?
Yep, that's 7. Yep.
And so I'm gonna comment on that because basically, you saw it said that these men were without blemish. So they're not just blemished from eyes of the man, but from eyes of the Lord.
Yep.
That's why they got a very high position like that, because that's a rare spirit to have. I mean, most jakes are born to be a bunch of fuck ups. But these men, they were born to like really just have that special spirit in them. Like Samuel, Elijah, all them dudes. But I'm gonna read some of this introduction here on this one. It says, in 626 BC, Nebuchadnezzar became king of Babylon. By the time of his death in 605 BC, he had eliminated the Assyrian Empire and swallowed it into what became known as Neo-Babylonian or Chaldean Empire. Judah had been largely under Assyrian domination from about 670 BC, but now found itself a new master. King Jehoiakim of Judah became a vassal of Nebuchadnezzar, the son of Nebuchadnezzar. See 2 Kings 24 and 1, if you get that.
Yep.
So I just wanted to get into some history before we get into
We got 2 Kings chapter 24 and verse 1. And it says, in the days of Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, came up to Jehoiakim because his servant 3 years. Then he turned and rebelled against him, and the Lord sent against him bands of the Chaldees, bands of the Syrians, and bands of the Moabites, and bands of the children of Ammon, and sent them against Judah to destroy it, according to the word of the Lord, which he spake by his servants the prophets.
that was Jehoiakim at the time, right?
Yep.
Jehoiakim was known to he was the dude that the wicked king that burned the scroll of Jeremiah. They said each time he read a piece of it, he ripped a piece off of it and cast it into a fire.
Yeah.
Nebuchadnezzar brought his father's empire to even greater heights, eventually deporting many Jews to Babylon. Daniel lived in the midst of all these momentous events. Deported to Babylon as a teenager, he was a close they say he could have been 19, 20 years old at that max. Daniel, he was a close confidant of Nebuchadnezzar throughout the Babylonian king's reigns. So I believe when he got this vision, they're gonna tell you it was like 10 years after the first people got taken captive. It says, reported as a teenager, he was a close confidant of Nebuchadnezzar throughout the Babylonian king's reign, 605 to 562 BC. So we actually Nebuchadnezzar, so that would have been Nebuchadnezzar would have been still reigning a couple of years just after he took down Judah completely. Later, Daniel served King Cyrus, the Persian ruler who conquered Babylon. Daniel claims to have written the book that bears his name. You can get it. Unless you're holding something.
Yeah, I was just gonna get a little background on the Chaldeans. Okay, just so we can have a reference of who they are. They were a part of the Assyrian Empire first. So the Chaldeans, when the Assyrian Empire was ruling, which is the kingdom that took the northern tribes into slavery, the Chaldeans were under the rule of the Assyrians. Okay, and they actually broke away. So I typed in Google, did the Chaldeans break away from the Assyrian Empire? It says yes, in a way the Chaldeans did break away from the Assyrians, but it is more accurate to say that they became a distinct group through a religious affiliation rather than a complete ethnic separation. A significant portion of the Assyrian population who were a part of the Church of the East eventually united with the Roman Catholic Church, from forming the Chaldean Catholic Church. This religious shift led to a distinct Chaldean identity, through many Chaldeans still identify as ethnically Assyrian. So these were Assyrians that it was a sect, okay? It was a sect of Assyrians that broke off. They were known as technocrats, okay? A technocrat, okay, let me actually get the definition of technocrat. You can get whatever you were doing.
This is Daniel claims to have read in the book that bears his name. This is Daniel 12:4. But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book, even to the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. This is Daniel, and knowledge is increased right now, as you see. Daniel 7:2. Daniel spake and said, I saw in my vision by night, Daniel spake and said, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the four winds of the heaven strove upon the great sea. So, yeah, he probably had scribes too, and his own buddies that helped Daniel write his vision too.
Okay.
You can get that.
Yeah, so this is the definition of technocrat, okay? It says an exponent or an advocate of technocracy, okay? And then I also got the definition of technocracy, which is the government or control of society or industry by an elite technical experts. And that's what we're seeing today. That's why in the book of Isaiah chapter 47, the Lord likens Babylon the Great as the daughter of the Chaldees, okay, who were the technocrats of their time. So what do you see today? All these scientists and these technical experts like Elon Musk, I believe they signed these Silicon Valley CEOs just now to the U.S. military high positions. I forget what position they signed them to. Okay, so there's these AI CEOs, okay, who own large artificial intelligence companies and data sourcing companies that were just signed to high positions in the United States military, having nothing to do with government, having nothing to do with the military, but somehow they're all signed to positions that takes decades to achieve. Okay, why? Because they're technocrats. It's their technology that is being used in the military. Okay, so these people, they take control of governments not because of any, religious or political affiliation, but because they own and control the technology that these governments use. For example, artificial intelligence, or what Elon Musk, SpaceX. What else does Elon Musk own? He owns Tesla. He owns all these large companies that these businessmen, these technocrats, they get rich and then they buy influence and power and then end up being in positions like the White House. How did Elon Musk get in the White House? He's not a politician. Well, it's because he's a technocrat. That's why. So.
And that's basically it's compared to the Chaldeans once again.
That's exactly what the Chaldeans did, and that's why the Lord calls them the daughter of the Chaldees in Isaiah 47.
And I read something about the Chaldeans. Basically, they were experts in worshiping the false gods and the idols. They knew all about the gods. And
they were astrologers, scientists. They believed in witchcraft, all that stuff.
So they worshiped. They had to worship the left-handed gods, the same gods we have today.
Yep.
Like these CEOs worship, and that's why the Lord, like Butter said, He calls them daughters of the Chaldeans.
That's right.
Like Bill Gates is one of them too as well.
Yep.
Bill Gates. Neuralink too. That's also another company.
Klaus Schwab. World Economic Forum. Who else? Technically, the Rothschild family are technocrats. Okay, they own the infrastructure of the financial world. All right, they own that technology.
Yeah, they own Google,
Yep.
Verizon, T-Mobile.
Yep.
But I got more here. To the end of the book, there is no reason to doubt either that Daniel was a historical person or that he wrote the book that bears his name. A well-educated Jew chosen for special training and placed in Babylon. Daniel possessed all of the linguistic skills, the historical and cultural knowledge needed to write a book of this depth and complexity. Daniel wrote his book to assert that the God of Israel was sovereign even over the powerful nations that surround his people. And that's going to be the whole main gist of this breakdown. Daniel 2. I know we're taking long to just get into it, but Daniel 2 and Daniel 7 and Revelation 13. Even some of Revelation 17 as well. His people, God's chosen nation, had been conquered and dispersed by a mighty empire that did not acknowledge God. So this story right here, it's really a story for us, the elect, right now. It may feel like Babylon is like how Daniel must have felt, like how Ezra must have felt, Nehemiah must have felt, all of those brothers must have felt. Like we're on the bottom, we're low, these kingdoms are all high, they're above us. The Lord just gave us an example right here of how he knows he has the higher power over these kingdoms. His people, God's chosen nation, had been conquered and dispersed by a mighty empire that did not acknowledge God. Had God forgotten his promises? Daniel's answer was that Babylon would fall to another empire, which in turn would fall to yet another great kingdom. History would continue in this pattern until God judged all Gentile nations and established his everlasting rule. Daniel's message was meant to uplift and encourage the weary hearts of the exiled Jews. Yet Daniel also looked forward to the day when God would restore and reward Israel. The time was coming when God would gather his children to him again. He would establish his messianic kingdom, which will last forever. The God who directs the forces of history has not deserted his people. His promises of preservation and ultimate restoration are certain.
That commentary, what verse was that on?
That was just the introduction.
Okay. Yeah, because that commentary matches up perfectly with Daniel 2 and 44.
If I can get this verse.
Yep.
Let's get that Daniel 2 in 1.
Yep.
Actually, it was on this one. Daniel chapter 1, verse 4, 5, and 7. It says in this commentary on down here, and it says, well favored, and for verse 4, when I said children in whom was no blemish, but well favored and skillful in all wisdom and cunning and knowledge and understanding and science, and such as had ability in them to stand in the king's palace, and whom they might teach the learning and the tongue of the Chaldeans. It says, well favored, God looking, learning, and the tongue. Well favored, good looking, learning in the tongue. Various subjects such as agriculture, astrology, astronomy, mathematics, and the Akkadian language. Verse 5, the ascension year of Nebuchadnezzar was the first year of the youth's training. What it says in verse 5, and the king appointed them a daily provision of the king's meat and of the wine which he drank, so nourishing them 3 years, that at the end thereof they might stand before the king. It says, the first full year of Nebuchadnezzar's reign was the second year of training. The second year of his reign was the third year of training. Verse 7 it says, when he gives them those Babylonian names, it says, in order to make these young men more Babylonian, their names were changed. Daniel means God is judge. Belteshazzar means they'll protect his life. Hananiah means, I think it should say Yahweh, I guess, but it says Yahweh is gracious. Shadrach possibly means command of Aku, the moon god. Mishael means who is what God is. Meshach may mean who is what Aku is. Azariah means whom Yahweh helps. Abednego means servant of Nebo. In each case, the Hebrew name contains a name for the true God. Either El or Aya, an abbreviation of Yahweh. It says Yahweh, but it's Yahweh. And the Babylonian name contains the name of a heathen god.
Yep.
That reminds me of today how Esau may want to try to change our names.
We still go by those slave names today. If you look at Jake, especially Judah, you look at their names. No Jake is going by an ancient Hebrew Israelite family name. All the names are really the slave names, okay? Even with the northern tribes. Think about Judah. What are their last names? White, Brown, Jones, Harper. And then what about northern tribes? Hernandez, Chavez. Those are heathen names. Okay, those are the names of the slave masters, which we carry on to us this day. Okay, so taking Israelites and putting different names on them has always been a thing when they went into captivity.
Here's another example in the scriptures of Joseph. Genesis 41 and 51. 41 and 45. And Pharaoh called Joseph's names Zepnath, Zapnath, Paneah, and he gave him to wife Asenath, the daughter of Potiphar, priest of On. And Joseph went over all the land of Egypt, and the figure with Esther as well gives you the precepts, Esther 2 and 7. So you get it first right out of Esther. Actually, got it.
Esther.
It's right after Nehemiah. Esther 2 and 7 here. It says, and he brought up Hadassah, that is Esther, his uncle's daughter, for she had neither father nor mother, and the maid was fair and beautiful, whom Mordecai, when her father and mother were dead, took for his own daughter. So her heathen name was Hadassah.
Hadashah. I can actually look that up. See what it means. If you go to Esther 2:7, it says,
Actually,
go ahead.
it says in verse 6 here, Mordecai was actually taken with some of those Jews as well. So it could have been possible he was with Daniel, or maybe just a bit before Daniel, after Daniel. Interesting.
Yeah, and I got this definition for Hadashah means myrtle. It says Queen Esther's Jewish name, which we know is not Jewish. She was a Jew. Okay? But it means myrtle. Feminine of Hadashah.
What does it mean, myrtle?
Myrtle.
What's that word?
Myrtle. I was gonna get that too. It's Myrtle. It's a plant. Generally refers to a plant species, Myterius communis, a fragrant evergreen shrub native to the Mediterranean region. So she was named after a shrub. That was, I guess, it's a fragrance. You probably used it in perfume, you know.
Now we can start at Daniel 2. I wanted to start basically from 1
Yep.
all the way on down to the last.
Cool. So we'll do Daniel chapter 2, verse 1.
Yeah, skip 1.
Okay, so verse 1 says, and in the second year of the reign of Nebuchadnezzar dreamed dreams wherewith his spirit was troubled, and his sleep brake from him. The king.
That's
Yep. Okay.
It says in this commentary, the second year for verse 1. This is Daniel 2 and 1. Nebuchadnezzar's reign began in 605, so this is likely in 603 BC. Given Daniel's preference for a full year chronological system, Daniel 1 and 1, the king was troubled because he did not know the future of his kingdom. See verse 29. Jump to 29.
29 says, As for thee, O king, thy thoughts came into thy mind upon thy bed, what should come to pass hereafter. And he that revealeth secrets maketh known to thee what shall come to pass. So Nebuchadnezzar saw a vision. The Heavenly Father Yahweh gave Nebuchadnezzar a vision of like we said at the beginning, a timeline. Okay, that's what Daniel said, what shall come to pass, which is prophecy. Okay, so Nebuchadnezzar saw a vision of the successing kingdoms or empires, world superpowers, and rulership after the Babylonian Empire.
I got a precept.
Go ahead.
Job 33, verse 29 to 30. It says here, lo, all these things worketh God oftentimes with man, to bring back his soul from the pit, to be enlightened with the light of the living. Mark well, O Job, hearken unto me, hold thy peace, and I will speak. If thou hast anything to say, answer me, speak, for I desire to justify thee. Actually, it was the commentary, so like Job, which is in this one, Job 33. Job 33 commentary in 29 to 30. It says here, this conclusion to verse 14 to 30 succinctly states God's primary purpose in getting a person's attention through dreams and suffering. He wants to keep him from the pit. And spiritually, because I just had a dream before the brother came. I just was going through something, and there's another part of the dream I don't really want to speak on, but it's very deep. Lord corrected my soul. He wants to keep him from the pits, that is the grave and hell, and give that person the light of life.
You read verse 16, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because that was the point in verse 16, where it says that he sealeth their instructions. Okay, so the Lord in the dream of Nebuchadnezzar showed the instruction or the precept or the prophecy of what was going to happen. And this wasn't a suggestion, this wasn't a warning, this is what's going to happen. Okay, the Lord showed him, this is what I have determined, what I have set forth. Okay.
I have something.
Yep.
Genesis 40 in verse 5 to 8. And the captain of the guard charged Joseph with them, and he served them, and they continued a season inward. And they dreamed a dream, both of them, each man his dream in one night, each man according to the interpretation of his dream. The butler and the baker of the king of Egypt, which were bound in the prison. And Joseph came in unto them in the morning, and looked upon them, and behold, they were sad. Verse 7, and he asked Pharaoh's officers that were with him in the ward of his Lord's house, saying, Wherefore look ye so sadly today? And they said unto him, We have dreamed a dream, and there is no interpretator of it. And Joseph said unto them, Do not interpretations belong to God? Tell me then, I pray you. That was one dream right there, an example right there for you. I'm going to jump to the 41st verse 1. Just verse 1 and then just verse 8. And it came to pass at the end of 2 full years that Pharaoh dreamed, and behold, he stood by the river. Now let me jump to verse 8. And it came to pass in the morning that his spirit was troubled, and he sent and called for all the magicians of Egypt, and all the wise men thereof. And Pharaoh told them his dream, but there was none that could interpret them unto Pharaoh. So this is very similar to Nebuchadnezzar and Daniel. That's why we believe Daniel is Joseph in the reincarnation.
I got a precept. This is 2nd Esdras chapter 4 and verse 37. It says, For Yahweh hath weighed the time upon a scale, and measured the years with measure, and diligently counted the days, and will change nothing until the previously designated measure is fulfilled. Okay, so like he said, that measure is the time of the kings. Okay, the era, or what's also known as the world. Okay, their world, the world of the Babylonians, was measured out. Okay, and Nebuchadnezzar was allowed to see the end coming. Okay, he was allowed to see the different metal alloys, which represents the start of the time, right? It says, for he weighed the time upon a scale, which is the what time? The time of each empire and the time they were allowed to rule, okay? Which the average empire rules for about 250 years. But actually, I was going to look that up, but you can get whatever you're...
This is Job 33, verse, we'll start at 15 to 30. It says in 15, in a dream and a vision of the nights when deep sleep falleth upon man and slumberings upon the bed, then he openeth the ears of man and seeth their instruction, that he may withdraw man from his purpose and hide pride from man. He keeps back his soul from the pit and his life from perishing by the sword. He is chastened also with pain upon his bed, and the multitude of his bones with strong pain, so that his life is void of bread, and his soul dainty meat. His flesh is consumed away that it cannot be seen, and his bones that were not seen stick out. Yet his soul draweth near unto the grave, and his life to the destroyers. Yea, if there be a messenger with him, an interpretator among 1,000, to show unto him his uprightness, then he is gracious unto him, and say, deliver him from going down to the pits. I have found a ransom. His flesh shall be fresher than a child's. He shall return to the days of his youth. He shall pray unto God. He will be favorable unto him, and he shall see his face with joy. He will render unto man his righteousness. He looketh upon man, and if any say, I have sinned and perverted that which was right, and it profited me not. He will deliver his soul from going into the pit, and his life shall see the light. Lo, all these things worketh God oftentimes with men, to bring back his soul from the pits, to be enlightened with the lights of the living.
Oh, I got something right here. I just typed in Google, how long does the average empire last? And it says the average empire lasts for approximately 250 years, which is what I was going into in Second Esdras. But then I typed in, how old is America? It says the United States of America is 248 years old as of July 4th, 2024. So that was last year, it was 248. We're almost in July right now, and it's 2025. So that makes the United States of America officially 249 years old. Okay, as of July 4th, 1776, establishing the country as a sovereign nation independent of Great Britain. Okay, we know this, I believe it's Friday. No, not this Friday. Next Friday is July 4th. Okay, we're gonna have all these Edomites, all these patriots, and Jake too. Okay, these Jake that really are gonna act a fool, drink, shoot off fireworks, and it's gonna be a whole lot of noise going on in celebration of the United States of America declaring independence. Okay, but remember, the Lord said He measured the time. And what the brothers are doing right now is we're watching and we're waiting to see the downfall of this kingdom, okay? And measuring the time partly goes into knowing the history of the empires and how long they last, and knowing the age of the United States of America, but then also bringing up precepts like 2 Esdras 4 and 32, okay? Knowing that the Lord has measured the time for the United States of America to dominate the earth. And really, with all the prophecies going on and what we're seeing, with relation to Daniel, the 2nd chapter, okay, what we're seeing is the downfall of this empire, the end of an age, the end of an era, the end of a world, okay? So it's all matching up, it's all lining up with what the scriptures have said would be, right?
I want to continue, unless you had something else.
Nope, go ahead.
That's Daniel 2 and 3. We'll go back to verse 2 in the GNT. He said to me, I'm worried about a dream I've had. I want to know what it means. Daniel 4 and 5 here in the GNT. But I had a frightening dream and saw terrifying visions when I was asleep. So there's actually another dream that Nebuchadnezzar ended up having, him being a tall ass tree. And that's where the Lord humbled him. That's why I said earlier in Job, the Lord thus is oftentimes this is really normal actually when especially during Israelite where you have dreams and bad dreams and you've gotten fucked up by the Lord.
God.
It's scary, bro. But let's continue and get commentary. I said read commentary on Daniel 4 and 5. Let me see. Read commentary on Daniel 4 and 5. So basically, like I knew the brother wanted to make this video, and so it's gonna take a while to finish this breakdown because I still got like 36 pages here. I haven't.
That's all right.
Go and print out.
It's all right. We're gonna go deep into this. Let me get this out too. Acts 2 and 17. Okay, Acts 2 and 17, because we're talking about dreams. It says, "And it shall come to pass in the last days," which we are in the last days, saith Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, "I will pour out of my spirit upon all flesh, and your sons and your daughters shall prophesy, and your young men shall see visions, and your old men shall dream dreams." Okay, dreams are very significant. Okay, a lot of people, when they talk about, "Oh, I had a dream," which, yeah, sometimes a dream can just be, nonchalant and really doesn't mean anything. Okay, but there are times, especially in these last days, when we're having dreams about, events, and they seem so realistic, and those are likely to be visions, because the Lord promised and He said that He was going to give dreams. Okay, so you can't just what's the word I'm looking for? You can't just overlook a dream that brothers have, right? You can't just overlook when people say, "Well, I had a dream that," because if you follow the channel, hopefully like 3, they post a lot of videos, and lately there's been a lot of women coming out on that channel saying, "Well, I had a dream about America being destroyed. I saw missiles, I saw fire, I saw people dying." Those dreams are actually visions from the Heavenly Father, and they are very real, and that's exactly what's going to happen. So these people are actually being shown their future. Okay, not only they're being shown their dreams, but then they wake up and watch Hebrew Israelite videos on YouTube, and we're telling them that this is what the Bible says, that America is going to be destroyed. Okay, and you should repent.
Come on, man. Like if the Lord can give you a vision or a dream, like that's why a lot of these celebrities end up talking about they're gonna die or something, because the Lord, or they mention their dreams. The Lord has given a lot of people dreams of their deaths. Or just before they're about to die, like the brother just mentioned, these sisters having dreams, women having these dreams. I saw a couple of them myself. It's like 5 videos. Just in 1 week, the brother posted up of these dreams, and then one dream that this one Northern Kingdom chick mentioned him is her father. Her father woke up from the nap. He literally said he felt like he was about to die, and he was about to leave this earth. Which is nothing to joke on, but the scriptures talk about respecting the dead, but he was about to die. But just before that, he mentioned this dream about people fighting each other, killing each other in World War III, like brother said. This is Daniel 4 and 5 on that commentary there. This dream, the dream that followed after, was the dream of Nebuchadnezzar, occurred 30 years after the dream in chapter 2. Now I want to get Daniel 5 and 7, if you can get there.
Yeah, I got it. This is Daniel chapter 5 and verse 7. And it says, "The king cried aloud to bring in the astrologers, the Chaldeans." There goes those Chaldeans again. And it says right before that, it says they are astrologers. So they were studying the constellations and the stars and all that. It says, "And the soothsayers, and the king spake and said to the wise men of Babylon, Whosoever shall read this writing and show me the interpretation thereof shall be clothed with scarlet, and have a chain of gold put about his neck, and shall be the third ruler in the kingdom.
That was
Okay.
5 and 7.
Yeah, that was 5 and 7.
Let's see what it says in the commentary. Daniel 5 and 7, and it says, Nabonidus the king was in Arabia. Belshazzar was his vice regent. Belshazzar is his son, right? So
Yep, it's a son.
it's rumored to be his grandson. When you go into the history.
Yeah.
The third ruler would have been next in line to the throne. This is in this one here, Daniel 5 and 7. Well, this was actually the third vision. You could say this was like a vision, or basically like a dream that Belshazzar here also saw. Vision dream can just mean sign. 5 and 7 it says, third ruler after Nabonidus and Belshazzar. You can get Daniel. I got it actually here. I get Daniel 2 and 2. So he's in the GNT. Yeah, but let's just get that. Well, if you read Daniel 2, make sure you get it in the GNT.
Okay.
This is, so he sent for his fortune tellers, magicians, sorcerers, and wizards to come and explain the dream to him. Back in Daniel 2. This is Nebuchadnezzar. To come and explain the dream to him when they came and stood before the king. I gotta read it. Commentary here. Daniel 2. Daniel 2 and the 2 to 3. Let's see. The word translated magicians refers to those who use the pen, most likely those learned in the sacred writings of the Babylonians. Astrologers studied stars, sorcerers received power from evil spirits. The Chaldeans were probably a class of wise men.
That's right. Technocrats.
And then the commentary on this one, Daniel 2 to 3. Magicians, textual scribes of the religious ritual, astrologers, enchanters, sorcerers, those who deal in magic, potions, also enchanters, Chaldeans, not all the Babylonians, as it says in Daniel 1 and 4, but a class of wise men priests. Verse, that was Daniel 2 to 3 Bible commentary here. If you can get Isaiah 47,
Yep.
read 7 to 13.
It's Isaiah chapter 47. You said 7?
7 to 13.
7 to 13. And it reads, And thou saidest, I shall be a lady forever. Talking about the daughter of the Chaldees, okay, which really is going into America. And thou saidest, I shall be a lady forever, so that thou didst not lay these things to thy heart, neither didst remember the latter end of it. Okay, because remember, the Lord said right before this, he says, I was wroth with my people, and I have polluted mine inheritance and given them into thine hand. Talking about America. But the way Esau Edom treated the Israelites was so bad, they didn't even think. It was almost like they didn't even consider who they were doing this to. Okay? The Lord said, if he that touches you touches the apple of his eye. Okay? Verse 8 says, Therefore, hear now this, that thou that art given to pleasures, that dwellest carelessly, that sayest in thine heart, I am, and none else beside me. What is Donald Trump? I like Donald Trump. He's funny because he talks a lot of shit. Okay, and he's got that dry humor to him. Okay, and he's been talking a lot of shit, talking about the American military. We are the greatest military of all time. Nobody can touch us. Israel has our weapons, which are the best weapons in the world. That's that proud speech. That's them saying, I am and none else beside me. I shall not sit as a widow, neither shall I know the loss of children. But these two things shall come to thee in a moment, in one day, the loss of children and widowhood. they shall come upon thee in their perfection, meaning there's going to be perfect. What's the phrase? Payback's a bitch, right? Payback's a bitch, man. The Lord is going to hit this place with such a force that this world has never seen. It's going to be perfect, okay? And Lord willing, we'll be able to see that final destruction from the chariots. It says, but these two things shall come to thee in a moment, in one day, the loss of children and widowhood. They shall come upon thee in their perfection, for the multitude of thy sorceries. What's the Greek word for, I believe it's pharmakia. The Greek word for, for pharmaceuticals. Okay.
Pharmacy.
Yep. And where do people go to get their medicine? They go to the pharmacy, right?
CVS.
Yep.
I literally have this sign outside that says pharmacy.
And it's what was the symbol? It's a cauldron, right? It's a witch's cauldron with the mixing stick in it. Okay, that's a symbol of the Chaldeans. What does it say? They were sorcerers and wizards. Okay, they were mixing all kind of concoctions up. Okay, let's see. Where was I? 9. But these two things shall come to thee in a moment, in one day, the loss of children and widowhood. They shall come upon thee in their perfection, for the multitude of thy sorceries, and for the great abundance of thine enchantments. For thou hast trusted in thy wickedness, thou hast said, none seeth me. Thy wisdom and thy knowledge, it hath perverted thee, and thou hast said in thine heart, I am, and none else beside me. Therefore shall evil come upon thee, thou shalt not know from whence. It's going to hit these people. These people are so blind, and when me and I go out on the highways and byways, we can see it. These people are blind. Okay, it's obvious to us what's about to hit this place, but to these people walking around and going about their business and their daily lives, they're oblivious to what's about to happen. It says, and thou shalt not know from whence it riseth, and mischief shall fall upon thee, and thou shalt not be able to put it off, and desolation shall come upon thee suddenly, which thou shalt not know. Okay, and it says, stand now with thine enchantments, and with the multitude of thy sorceries, wherein thou hast labored from thy youth. If so be thou shalt be able to profit, if so be thou mayest prevail. Thou art wearied in the multitude of thy counsels. Let now the astrologers and the stargazers, which are the Chaldeans, the daughter of the Chaldees, the monthly prognosticators, stand up and save thee from these things that shall come upon thee. Nobody can stop what is about to happen. Not your Elon Musk can't stop what's about to happen to America. Jeff Bezos can't stop what's about to happen to America. Donald Trump can't stop what's about to happen to America. Who else? Bill Gates can't stop what's about to happen to America.
RFK.
Yeah, this dude is talking about putting chips in people already. He said he wants to, what did he say? He wants to have every American wear a wearable tracking device by 2030. These people are putting it right in front of your face what their plan is, and the Lord has you so blinded that you can't even see it, right?
It went on in Daniel 2 in the GNT verse 3. He said to me, I'm worried about a dream I've had. I want to know what it means. They answered the king in Aramaic, may your majesty live forever. Tell us your dream, and we will explain it to you. The king said to them, I have made up my mind that you must tell me the dream, and then tell me what it means. If you can't, I'll have you torn limb from limb, and make your house a pile of ruins.
Oh, I got this right here. Right here. Look at this. Because while I was reading Isaiah 47, this came up. Because I watched this video today while I was at work. Okay, where it talks about, thou hast trusted in thy wickedness, and thou hast said, none seeth me. Thy wisdom and thy knowledge hath perverted thee, and thou hast said in thine heart, I am, and none else beside me. Okay, this article came up. A brother did a video on this. I typed in Google, have scientists successfully created a baby mouse with 2 male mice? And the AI overview says, yes, scientists have successfully created mice with two male parents. Researchers have developed a technique that allows for the creation of biparental mice, meaning mice with two biological fathers. This involved modifying DNA and creating egg cells from male cells, which is the sperm cell. Okay? So these people are so abominable, so disgusting. These people gotta go. These people are touching the Lord's creation. They're moving the earth out of place. This is a wickedness to the fullest extent. And you know what they said at the end of the article and the video that I watched? They said they are working on they're working on ways to implement this in humans so that these faggots can have babies.
What did it say?
It says they've successfully created a offspring from two males in mice, and they're working currently on ways to implement that in humans so that gay faggots can have babies. These people must be stopped. Okay, this is and you got people, okay, that don't believe that we're at the end. You don't believe that we're at the end. This is why, what does it say in actually, let me get that. In Jude, in the book of Jude, look at this. Jude 1 and
but
6.
we're the problem though, bro, because
right, we're the problem because we're saying that the white man can't be saved, right? People want to be mad at us. But meanwhile, Esau's over here creating mice with two faggot mice making babies and talking about how he wants to have men get pregnant and have babies and shit. This man, I got to read this real quick. Jude 1 and 7. It says, even as Sodom and Gomorrah and the cities about them, in like manner, giving themselves over to fornication and going after strange flesh, are set forth as for an example, suffering the vengeance of eternal fire. These people haven't learned, man. We talk about Sodom and Gomorrah to this day, and these people somehow have twisted and have done the mental gymnastics enough to say that, oh well, we it's all right. They can be faggots today. We can do that now. When has the Lord ever destroyed a civilization with fire like that? You know? He did it to Sodom and Gomorrah as an example that if you go down this road, this is what I'm going to do to you. And this is why America has got to be burned with fire. Right? You got Edomite scientists creating faggot mice and making babies with them.
and even the king of Sodom was trying to help Abraham when Abraham went to go to war.
Yep.
The king of Sodom was like, just give me all the people, take all the goods for you.
Mm-hmm.
But what has America done to help us?
And you know, like these people, this is why Obadiah 1 and 18 has to take place, huh? The problem on the earth is you Edomites, and that's really why people hate the Hebrew Israelites, because we're calling it like it is. We're telling the truth. That the problem on the earth is a nation of people called the so-called white man, the so-called Edomites of the Bible. Okay? These people are so perverted and disgusting and against the laws of the Lord and against nature itself that they are now creating faggot mice and successfully creating babies with them. These people must be eliminated. Okay? The rest of the nations will be here, but Esau, he's got to go, man.
And no kingdom ever has done that before.
None.
Like Babylon here, we're reading about their gold. I believe the gold gave them I believe the Lord allowed them to be called the gold because they at least crowned Daniel. They at least had some type of respect for the prophets Daniel. Same with the Median Persians. They had some type of respect for the Lord to bring us back.
Well, yeah, and they during those captivities, they would still allow the Israelites to even keep some of their customs. They were allowed to do a lot of the things that were required in the law, even though they would be required to compromise. But the difference is when we got over here in America, they stripped that all. Started with the Greeks. They stripped that whole thing. The first Maccabees, first chapter tells you how they stripped they started stripping the heritage from Jacob. Okay.
What precept was that?
First Maccabees, I believe it's 1 and 7, and then you can go through 14, and then First Maccabees 1 and 36 to 46.
Yeah, once you get to that's right, like right near when the Greeks was about to be taken down by the Romans, they was going full Joker on us.
Yep.
This is Daniel 2 and 5. The king said, I have made up my mind that you must tell me the dream and then tell me what it means. If you can't, I'll have you torn limb from limb and make your houses a pile of ruins, it says in the commentary.
Yep.
The thing is gone from me, or the command is firm, or the dream is certain to me. It is uncertain whether or not the king had forgotten the dream. If not, he was putting his wise men to the ultimate test, asking them to recall the past in order to give credits to their predictions about the future.
Okay.
So that's just showing you how the power of the Lord is. He made Daniel to remember the dream, and whether he forgot it or he was just trying to put to the test. I mean, you can speculate, but I think it tells you later on that he didn't remember it. Daniel 2 and verse 6, continuing on in 6. But if you can tell me both the dream and its meaning, I will reward you with gifts and great honor. Now then tell me what the dream was and what it means. They answered the king again, if your majesty will only tell us what the dream was, we will explain it. At that the king exclaimed, just as I thought, you are trying to gain time because you see that I have made up my mind. Now I got something on this one. As far as the commentary, Daniel verse 8. Daniel chapter 2, verse 8. For the commentary on this one here, this is basically a big
They're
ass.
trying to buy time.
This is basically a big ass King James Bible. It has the study notes to it. Daniel 2 and verse 8. What had gone from the king was not his memory of the dream, but the command. Aram-Azda, in Aramaic is Azda, to reveal it and interpret it. This is they were trying to buy time. Verse 10 to 11. Which, I don't know, I mean, it could have been forgotten. It might not have been forgotten.
Yeah.
It's 2 and 8. At the time the king explained, just as I thought, you are trying to gain time because you see that I have made up my mind to give all of you the same punishment. If you don't tell me the dream, you have agreed among yourselves to go on telling me lies because you hope that in time things will change. Tell me what the dream was, and then I will know that you can also tell me what it means. Verse 10. This was really the Lord put in this man's spirit to say these. The advisors replied, there is no one on the face of the earth who can tell your majesty what you want to know. No king, not even the greatest and most powerful, has ever made such a demand of his fortune tellers, magicians, and wizards. 11. But what your majesty is asking for is so difficult that no one can do it for you except the gods, and they do not live among the human beings. I want to give the Bible commentary for verse 10 to 11.
But you notice how it said in verse 10, the magicians and astrologers or Chaldean, Well, I'm in the King James, but it says magicians or astrologers. What does it say? Were you reading the GNT?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what does it say there? The
In
wizards.
It says in verse
10 at the end.
Has ever made such a demand of his fortune tellers, magicians, and wizards.
and wizards. Today, those are your scientists. Okay, those are your Fortune 500 CEO technology company CEOs, your AI execs. Okay, your high level doctors like Dr. Oz that wants to put microchips in everybody. Okay, those are those people today. Okay, and those were the Chaldeans, and Nebuchadnezzar was basically challenging them to see if they could hold their weight in what they actually claimed to be, right? So that's just, I wanted to bring that out.
If you can get Daniel 1 and 20 ready.
Yep.
And 2 and 10.
Yep.
This is what it says. In effect, the wise men admitted that their previous interpretations were inaccurate and deceptive. You got that?
Daniel 1 and 20 says, and in all the matters of wisdom and understanding that the king inquired of them, he found them 10 times better than all the magicians and astrologers that were in all his realm. And Daniel continued even unto the first year of King Cyrus. Talking about the Daniel, Mishael, Azariah, and Ananiah. They were above all of their technocrats of the time. Okay, because why? Because the Heavenly Father Yahweh was dealing with them. They had the Spirit on them. Okay, which is why. What's that verse? Is there no more wisdom in Teman, or is wisdom past in Teman? Let me get that.
And that RFK situation too. The RFK. If you go on the news and look up vaccines, you're gonna see a lot about RFK right now, trying to build up that trust again for these people to take up that new vaccine that's going to come to pass. Yeah. Because that's the whole reason why remember he was wanting to remove that red 40. That's the reason for that, so that he can build up trust, so that these people can end up taking the new vaccine.
Yep.
They may end up implementing.
This is Jeremiah 49 and 7 says, concerning Edom, thus saith the Lord Yahweh of hosts, is wisdom no more in Teman, which are those Germans which are known for being the smartest of the Edomites? Is counsel perished from the prudent? Is their wisdom vanished? Okay, because when it comes to these scriptures and the prophecies and knowing what's about to happen and having solutions, the actual real solution to what the world needs, only the men of the Lord have that. Just like Daniel, Azariah, Mishael, and Ananiah. They were the men of the Lord at that time, okay, under the Chaldeans. Now, what do we have today? We have the men of the Lord that teach the right, 100% true doctrine out of the Bible. Okay, they're lowly today, poor, meek, humble. And then you have the technocrats, the billionaires, trillionaire class that are up in government making these policies and decisions, but they don't know what to do. They have no idea what's going on. They're panicking. Okay, they're making rushed decisions. Okay, so it's the same dynamic that's going on back then and today. The Chaldeans versus Daniel and his brothers versus the men of the Lord now versus the technocrats of today, right?
Daniel, going back to Daniel 1 and 20, the brother said, in all matters of wisdom and understanding, that the king inquired of him, he found Daniel and his friends there 10 times better than all of them. Going back to Daniel 2 and 10, when the Chaldeans said, the Chaldeans answered before the king and said, there is not a man upon the earth that can show the king's matter. Therefore, there is no king, lord, nor ruler that asks. He said there was none upon earth that could answer this. But basically, the Lord already had Daniel there that could answer that whole dream there. Daniel 1 and 17. As for these 4 children, God gave them knowledge and skill in all learning and wisdom, and Daniel had understanding in all visions and dreams. If you can get Exodus 8.
Yep.
6 through 7.
So Exodus chapter 8, verse 6. And it says, "And Aaron stretched out his hand over the waters of Egypt, and the frogs came up and covered the land of Egypt. And the magicians did so with their enchantments, and brought up frogs upon the land of Egypt. Then Pharaoh called for Moses and Aaron and said, Entreat the Lord that he may take away the frogs from me and from my people, and I will let the people go, that they may do sacrifice unto the Lord Yahweh."
So basically, they couldn't do that when, it's like, right.
God.
What was the plan?
Well, they did the magicians did bring up the frogs, but what they couldn't do was they couldn't make them go away. That's why he had to call Moses and Aaron, and he said, Can you entreat your power to get these frogs out of here? Okay, so what did they do? The magicians probably put some sort of scent that attracted frogs, some shit or whatever. But Daniel actually used spiritual. Not Daniel. Sorry, Aaron used spiritual power through his staff. Okay, the power that was given to him, the Lord, and he actually used spiritual power to get all them frogs out of the water, right? And then if they were so powerful, why couldn't they make them go away themselves, right? You know?
Oh, and that's what Esau is doing now with the weather manipulation.
Mm-hmm.
He's like basically showing the Lord that I can do this too.
That's right. Left-handed spirit power. Okay, he has the power of a god on the left-hand side, which means carnal. He has the power to use his science and his technology. The Lord Yahweh has allowed him to reach a certain level of power, which there is power on the left-hand side, but it's not close. It doesn't even compare to the right-hand side, to the power of the Spirit, okay, which is only accessible by the children of Israel, okay?
You can jump down to 17 to 18 on the same chapter.
Yep. Verse 17 says, "And they did so, for Aaron stretched out his hand with his rod, and smote the dust of the earth, and it became lice in man. And the beasts, all the dust of the land became lice throughout all the land of Egypt. And the magicians did so with their enchantments to bring forth lice, but they could not. So there were lice upon man and upon the beasts."
And get Exodus 9 and 11.
Exodus 9 and verse 11 says, "And the magicians could not stand before Moses because of the boils for the boil was upon the magicians and upon all the Egyptians." See, when you read accounts like this, what you're reading is accounts when Israelites were using what would today be referred to as superpowers. Okay? These men, Moses and Aaron, Yahushai, David, Solomon, all these accounts, Samson, right? All these accounts of Israelites being given the power by the Heavenly Father to do these amazing things. Joshua was a major one. Okay, he stopped the sun and the moon. Okay, these are major events that happen in the Bible, and when you read this in Sunday church school, it goes right over your head. You just think like you see it, but you're not fully you don't fully have the vision and the imagery of in your head of what is actually taking place. Okay, and what the Bible is talking about, right? You got to have the vision to be able to see these things so that you can understand them. All right.
And the reason why Jake doesn't have those visions is because of all this witchcraft that Esau constantly puts in us. Hollywood, pharmaceuticals, pharmakia, the food, right? Education system, you know?
What
play was that again? 9 and 11? Actually,
that was the boils on the skin.
And they said they couldn't do it.
Yeah, they couldn't.
So right there, they tried again to bring the boils. That was the second account of them trying to do the same plague that the Lord sent, they couldn't do it.
Con.
Continuing in the GNT in Daniel 2 in verse 10, it says here, actually 11, what your majesty is asking for is so difficult that no one can do it for you except the gods, and they do not live among human beings. So at that the king flew into a rage and ordered the execution of all the royal advisors in Babylon. Let's keep going. So that the order was issued for all of them to be killed, including Daniel and his friends. Verse 14, its subheading reads, God shows Daniel what the dream means. Then Daniel went to Arioch, commander of the king's bodyguard, who had been ordered to carry out the execution. Choosing his words carefully, 15, he asked Arioch why the king had issued such a harsh order. So Arioch told Daniel what had happened. 16, Daniel went at once and obtained royal permission for more time, so that he could tell the king what the dream meant. Then Daniel went home and told his friends Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah what had happened. 18, he told them to pray to the God of heaven for mercy and to ask him to explain the mystery to them so that they would not be killed along with the other advisors in Babylon. Now I want to get some commentary on that. Commentary on Daniel, verse 16 to 2, verse 16 to 18. Daniel, despite his education and expertise, still knew that prayer to the omniscient God, showing prayer is important. God was the first step in a crisis situation. However, Daniel did not pray alone. He sought the counsel of friends who would raise petition to the Lord with him. God of heaven is a favorite title for the Lord in late Old Testament literature, emphasizing God's dominion over all nations. Verse 17 to 18. And this one here. Daniel 2, verse 17 to 18. Let's see. Even though Daniel had special God-given abilities, he and his friends still had to pray. So yeah, even when Aaron, like the brother mentioned, when Aaron and Moses was bringing up those powers, man, they still had to pray.
Yep.
They had to pray to the Father, though, so they could do that stuff. I imagine when Samson actually was before he was about to take down those Philistines, he called on the Lord. Let's see, and then verse numbers. Continuing on with the story, Daniel 2, verse 19 to 29, it says in the GMT, that same night, the mystery was revealed to Daniel with a vision, and he praised the God of heaven. God is wise and powerful. Praise him forever and ever. He controls the times and the seasons. He makes and unmakes kings. It is he who gives wisdom and understanding. He reveals things that are deep in secret. He knows what is hidden in darkness, and he himself is surrounded by light. I praise you and honor you, God, of my ancestors. You have given me wisdom and strength. You have answered my prayer and shown me what to tell the king.
I got a commentary too.
No.
Daniel 2 in 14 through 23, basically the same thing Harp was going into, where it says the king sent for his wise men to tell him the dream and the interpretation. Daniel, it seems, was not summoned to appear among them. But you notice, if you go back to chapter 1 and verse 20, it says that he was favored above all of them. Okay? Which is why, or another reason why, the Chaldeans hated Daniel, and they actually made a plot to throw him in the lion's den, because they knew that he was favored by the king. Which is also why when the Chaldeans said they asked for more time, right? And what did the king say? No, I'm not giving you no more time. You got to tell me right now. right? But when Daniel asked for more time, he got more time, okay? Because that just shows you that the Lord put Daniel in a favorable position, okay, over the Chaldeans. Just like the Lord now today is going to put his men in a favorable position over the Chaldeans of today. So when these people are panicking, okay, and they don't know what to do, the men of the Lord are going to know what to do. We're going to be given grace and mercy, okay? But these people out here, what was the threat that he made? He said you would dash you to pieces.
I'm going to tear your limb from limb and turn your houses into piles of rubble.
Yeah, he said, the king answered and said, to the Chaldeans, the thing is gone from me. If ye will not make it known unto me the dream with the interpretation thereof, ye shall be cut in pieces. That's called dismemberment. And your houses shall be made a dunghill. So, you know, that really just shows you that even in an empire that is not our own, against technocrats and billionaires and trillionaires, we are still, you know, Lord willing, we're part of that number. We're still considered above in value to the Lord than those men, right? So we got to have that confidence and keep that confidence. That's why it's important to go into the prophecies, man. You know. But how many more you want to get?
How much time you got left?
Yeah, I gotta go pretty soon here.
What time is it?
6:45. I can do another 5 minutes.
Okay, I'll get going. Daniel 2 and verse. I'll just get this last 2 and verse 9.
Go ahead.
Well, actually, we can just close out with that.
Okay, you want to close out? Because yeah, we'll make another one. We'll do a part 2 to this. Where are we at? We stopped at Daniel 2 and 19. Yeah, 19. Okay, so we'll pick up there, and then we'll finish the rest, Lord will, because this actually is a deep breakdown. You can go into a lot, and then we can go into the other ones too. All right, so with that, hopefully y'all were edified. We want to give all praise, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rakakadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone for teaching us this truth according to the Bible. There's a Shalom and a Bob of all.